You gave me a defective water.
This one's been open, just so you know. I'm not going to drink, but nothing has.
Okay. Welcome to a special called meeting of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council. I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
And before I do that, I'd like for everybody to speak up loudly because all of our recording system has been disassembled by IT because of all the flooding, so you'll need to speak up so that we can hear you for the recording that John is doing. So, Mr. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Patterson.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Humphreys.
Here.
And Mayor Lowe.
Here, it might be a little loud, but anyway. Okay, so council, I need a motion to go into closed session. Madam Clerk, would you give us the number?
Yes, it is 2.2-3711A7 for the consideration of possible or probable litigation.
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphreys.
Aye.
And Mayor Lowe.
Aye. No, sorry. So I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Do I have a motion to go back into open session?
So moved. I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Craig moved, Mr. Humphrey second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphreys.
Aye.
And Mayor Lowe.
Aye. And I'd like to ask the clerk to read the certification.
Whereas the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia has convened in a closed meeting on this day pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions set forth in the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended requires a certification by the Town Council that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. And now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from an open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Town Council. If you agree, please answer with I so certify.
I so certify.
I do not so certify.
Also certified.
I so certify.
Also certified.
And I have discussion
Okay.
at the appropriate time.
It's appropriate.
At 10:55 this morning, I left the meeting because it became aware to me that we were going to discuss the FOIA appeal. And this has already been announced to the public. The public has already been informed. I noticed that after speaking just a few minutes with Mr. Bob Ward, who is possibly the attorney, that Ms. Lowe and Mr. Humphreys was contacting a lawyer to see if they could replace Mr. Flynn, Mr. Mark Flynn. Discussion proceeded, and that's when I decided to leave because I feel that was a FOIA. It's already been into the public's eye. The public already knows about it, and there's already been a hearing about it. I do not agree with the appeal, nor do I agree with what hold on just a second, happened under, I don't want to sweep these things under the rug. In other words, I want it to be open. I ran on the government platform of open government. I'm still that way. I want open government. If 3 council members met, and this is talking about the appeal, the FOIA, before the appeal actually, if those 3 council members met, they met. What is considered a meeting? And I've been told by VML attorneys that a meeting can be emails, even if you're emailing different people. It depends on the time frame that you email people. So if you call people, it can be considered, call council members, it can be construed as a meeting. So Wayne and I were never notified that Mr. Flynn was even going to be hired for the original FOIA meeting. We never had a discussion, And so there had to be a discussion between council members at some point to hire him. So I wasn't contacted either when Mr. Flynn withdrew from the case. I had to go to the courthouse myself and go get papers that were supposed to be distributed to me by an appointee and also by the council. So I did not get any of that information, and I had to go get it myself to know that Mr. Flynn withdrew from the case. So that's all I have to say. I believe in open government, and I still say this should have been discussed in open government, in open meeting.
Okay, council, do we have a motion?
Yes. Yes, Madam Mayor, I would authorize that we hire Bob Ward to act as counsel in the FOIA appeal and to instruct the town manager to pay his fees from the general funds.
And could you add to that because Mr. Flynn
I
had to
can-
resign
yeah.
from the case?
Yes, because Mark Flynn had to resign from the case because he accepted a cabinet position with the governor.
Right.
I have a question.
Okay, wait just a second. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
Okay, discussion. I would also like to know, Ms. Eisenhower did appear as the FOIA co-counsel with Mr. Flynn. I never have received any information either from Ms. Eisenhower that she has withdrawn her position as co-counsel. So I didn't get any information on that either. Does it exist?
I can perhaps address that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
I'm not aware that Ms. Eisenhower was ever acting as co-counsel. She was a defendant in the case, and it's my understanding that she has retained separate counsel herself to represent her in that particular case.
And I apologize if I'm incorrect on that, but that's what was said at the hearing, that she did go into the judge's chambers and listen to all the information the judge had, that Mr. Proctor had, and Mr. Flynn had. But she was representing herself verbally as co-counsel. So that's what I wonder, how that transpired and why there was no withdrawal.
Yeah, I can't respond to that other than she never indicated to me that she was co-counsel to the council in this, and I certainly wouldn't have advised her to do so since she was the named defendant in the case.
Okay, I just want that said for the record. That's what happened.
All right. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gray,
No.
Ms. Patterson,
No.
Mr. Howard,
Aye.
Mr. Humphries,
Aye.
and Mayor Lo.
Aye. Okay, now, council, do you have another motion?
I think I need a motion to have a lawyer represent me in this case, because this is such a conflict of interest to have two people on the council say no about representing them as a lawyer, and it's too controversial. I just see conflicts of interest, and I'm just not comfortable with having an attorney for you all, and we're not the ones that were involved in any of this. And I'd like to make a motion that I have my own counsel, please.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would think I think we probably need to talk to legal, someone that could advise us on this. I guess that as you look at it, if we were found in violation of FOIA as the entire council, and it was listed as individuals and as Abington Town Council, then I guess either you all were or weren't found in violation. If you're not found in violation and there's no pending litigation against you, why would you need a lawyer?
Well, I mean, I have no answer for that, Mr.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no litigation,
I
nothing's
just
going
think
on.
that it needs
I'll
to
tell
be.
you what,
I think
here's what maybe you can do. Why don't you talk to whoever you think you need to talk to, and then get back with us. And I'm very willing to consider that as another motion, if you will just do some research first.
If I'm allowed to do so, and let the public know, I want to make sure that I do the right thing and be open. That's whatever I need to do.
So are you willing to withdraw the motion until you speak with someone that you feel confident will give you good advice?
I really don't want to withdraw the motion. I want to say that I want legal advice because I don't feel like I'd be represented, so I don't really want to withdraw the motion.
Okay.
But I will do research, you know.
Once again, if I could just mention, I don't think that either Mr. Craig nor Ms. Patterson I'm not a lawyer, but I would think that if they're not being litigated against, if there's no litigation, I can't see why that they would need representation.
Well, it does
I guess
say the
representation.
town council, you know, but it's so difficult to differentiate. I believe it could be misconstrued as a conflict of interest, and I don't want any muddy water. I just want it to be clear. That makes sense.
I think if Ms. Patterson feels that she needs counsel to get through this is all difficult for all of us, and some of us feel like we need help and some of us don't, that she should be entitled to have her counsel.
Yeah, well, the only other thing I would say is that you had mentioned that you talked to the VML lawyer, and that might be a good resource to see. That might be somebody that you find that would be impartial and independent, to advise you whether or not that you would need legal representation if you weren't a named defendant.
I will also contact VML as well, but I just feel that, you know, I just feel very conflicted with this.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
I vote no right now till we can find out something. That's my vote right now.
Mr. Humphries?
No, until we find out something.
And Mayor Lo?
I'm going to vote no until we get advice. But I am going to ask Ms. Patterson to get some advice.
And I'm not
And
saying
when
I
do you-
might change my vote. Right now, I'm saying no.
When do you want me to report back to you, Mayor Lowe?
Well, our next meeting, and that's what our next motion is going to be about, will be on February the 20th. We would like for you to post notice that and I don't know if this needs to be a motion, but
Let's make it a motion.
let's just make it a motion. Okay.
Yes, we would like to authorize the clerk to post notice that there will possibly be 3 or more members that will be meeting in Richmond, Virginia on February the 20th.
At 11 a.m.
Rick, I thought we might have 4.
Well, 3 or more, I said at least 3.
3 or more.
At least 3.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's what I said.
Forgot my hearing aid this morning.
Do you have a second?
Do we need to say why?
I second.
Do we need to say why we're meeting in Richmond?
I don't think so.
We have counsel right here.
Should we state why we're meeting in Richmond, council?
For discussion. How about?
Just a second.
Just one thing I might point out, well, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, if while in Richmond, you all will be in any type of closed session, you're going to have to identify that you would be in a closed session. So I'm not sure,
Sections and companies.
in the specific section that would accompany that. So I'm not sure if it will be a closed session or an open session. I would assume maybe partially both.
It will be, though, in a non-public setting, under the rules that will be governing where we're at and what we're doing.
So I think you need a closed session.
And if anybody in the public wants to come, what kind of accommodations will they have?
They will not be allowed to participate or be present.
Kathy, I'm going to be expected, if I go, for my expenses to pay.
Let's get one at a time. Let's
Oh, one at a time,
authorize
okay.
the clerk to post notice that the town council, 3 or more town council members may be participating in a closed session meeting in Richmond, Virginia on February the 20th at 11 o'clock.
Do we need to have any second or anything on that?
We do.
Okay, I'll second that.
Actually, Mr. Craig already did.
Oh, we did, okay.
So,
Okay.
I'll third that then.
Okay, so any more discussion?
and Ms. Kingsley is reminding me that everybody needs to speak up so that we can
Yes.
get heard on the recording over here. So, sorry about that. You ready for the vote?
Roll call,
Okay.
please.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
And Mayor Lo?
Aye. Now we need a motion for,
Closed session. Possible to phone a closed session?
that was in
We
the
do?
motion. That was in that motion.
Was it the motion? Okay.
The closed
Would
session
you-
was in that motion.
It was?
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes. Yeah, it said for the purpose of a closed session.
Right.
Okay.
Now I need a motion to authorize the town manager to pay for travel expenses for any of the town council members who travel to Richmond.
I so move.
I second.
Okay? Any
Let-
discussion?
I would like some clarification. When you say travel expenses, are you all going to be spending the night?
Yes.
Okay.
Possibly
and-
two.
Probably 2 nights.
Okay, well, you probably ought to amend your prior motion. You only made a motion of a meeting for February the 20th. If 3 or more of you are traveling together, that would
We
be.
won't be traveling together, Mr. Kelly. But we'll do what
No,
you
what he's
suggest.
saying is that we need to also authorize him to pay hotel accommodation.
Oh, okay.
So to amend your motion to include up to 2 nights of hotel accommodations. Would you amend your
I
motion?
accept that amendment.
Okay. And does the second accept that amendment?
Yeah. that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Second that.
Discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lo?
Aye.
Can I have discussion, or we already passed that point, didn't we?
We're past it, but you are welcome to say or ask any questions you'd like to ask.
No, that's all right, it's nothing, that's okay. I'll skip that.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
I just add, and Mr. Kelly's probably knows better than me, but I don't know if you have to pre-announce why you're going into closed session, because it's exempt, because it's an employment matter, or whether you do it at the time before you go into up there. I don't know very much what to do.
Mr. Howard's going to have to leave. He's got to take care of his mother, and so he has, let the record reflect that Mr. Howard has to leave me.
The agenda needs to reflect that, and then at the time in Richmond, they would need to make an appropriate motion to go into.
Is it 3711A?
Yeah, the same one y'all went in to
Okay.
speak to Mr.
Actually,
Sauer.
it's going to be A1 because it's the personnel.
Okay, I'm corrected.
Before
It's
Mr.
A1.
Sauer leaves, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry.
I just want to I want to protect you all by making sure, I mean, the initial motion was for a public notice for February the 20th. If you all are going to Richmond and you're going to be staying 2 nights, if more than 2 of you are traveling together, you will need to post notice for that travel to Richmond as well.
Let's just
Let's just do
do
Yeah,
that.
let's do
it,
it.
just in case. So 19th and the 20th.
And 21st. 21st. Because if they spend the night the 20th, you have to drive back.
Okay, 19th through the 21st.
So the other thing was.
So the motion, wait a minute, so the motion is to amend the motion to state the 19th through the 21st, possibly 3 or more council members.
I accept the amendment.
And I'll second the amendment. And Mr. Sauer, what was the question I asked you earlier about your opinion, and we never did get it? I know we're not going to be able to accommodate the public, but it was before that question. Because it was going to go into the amendment.
Yeah, it's just, the question is, at what point do you identify why you want to close session, whether you do it now or you do it there before you go into closed session?
Right.
But it will be exempt.
Okay, and who's going to read that? Is there any particular, the mayor, okay, to read that?
Right.
Okay. All right, I think that gets it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and I'm just going to ask for a roll call for the final amendment.
I'm not sure that was technically a motion.
Was there a second?
Yeah.
They both agreed, but it didn't go back. It's an amendment to a motion we've already voted on and moved on from, so.
Okay, so
The
a new motion.
the cleanest
Yeah,
way,
cleanest
you've
Yeah.
got one motion in place
Yeah.
for closed session. The cleanest way is for a motion that the council will be taking a trip to Richmond February the 19th through the 21st, and 3 or more members may be traveling together.
That is correct.
And I'll move that. I'll so move.
That's much better.
And I'll second that.
Now, roll call.
Mr. Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Patterson,
Aye.
Mr. Humphries,
Aye.
and Mayor Lo.
Aye. Okay. Okay, council, I was going to try to set the budget meetings, and we put it on the agenda, but Mr. Howard is not here. He did have to go, and so I think we're just going to have to participate in a doodle poll again for a budget, for all of the budget meetings. And,
I was waiting for a new one anyway. I thought that you had a problem with Wednesday, so we're going to get a new day. I didn't respond because of that.
right.
Well, what I was trying to get everyone to respond, just to see if that Monday, Kathy could meet on 2 of the Mondays. Mr. Humphries was not available on one of the Mondays, so.
I can see if I can work a couple things around. I mean, it's nothing major.
Let's just forego the old doodle poll,
Yeah,
send
put it
a
on
new doodle poll with the answers that you currently have.
All right,
Okay.
we'll do that.
Okay. And if there's nothing else to come before the council, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Everybody have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you.